Ricky! Ricky, get up!
I opened my eyes. The tall pine trees were still outside. The track had cut into the side of a mountain. What? I groaned. I personally liked sleeping until the moon was gone and the sun was up.
I think we might be stopping.
So?
So, we can be seen in here, or you know what'll happen.
Of course I knew what would happen, and was aching from when the guard had caught me. Maybe we're just passing by.
You know when you pass by inside a train?
I'm really
Hello, train boys. Is this a locomotive?
I got up and looked out. Far off in the distance, I could just barely see city lights. Fine, but we still don't know if we're stopping. Oh my gosh, you're gonna hate this chapter. You're gonna love it so much. Okay. He rolled his eyes. Suddenly the train veered east, almost throwing me out of the boxcar.
What was that?
Sean asked. He got up from his perch on a couple of stacks of hay. The city lights faded, and all we could see was the pine trees being lit by the moonlight.
This isn't right.
What? What's wrong?
We're not headed for Arizona anymore. This thing is going to Colorado.
Are we going to stop before we get there?
No.
Sean just knows about we should have invited Sean.
Sean's autistic.
Sean to figure.
He really likes trains.
It'll put a couple of extra days on the trip. No big deal.
No!
He started pacing around the tiny boxcar. Hey, if there's anything I could do, I would do it. Of course, there was nothing to do to stop us. Sean looked at me as if he were trying to put my words to use.
The river.
What? I said flatly.
We jump.
That's insane! You're gonna hate this so much. Because you have to edit it. Anyways.
Actually, no, I prefer the action scenes. They're more
really?
fun.
Okay.
Well, when it's just Sean talks, Ricky talks, Sean talks, Ricky talks, Sean... Boring as hell.
Sean peered out of the boxcar.
I see it!
He shouted over the hum of the track. We're not going to jump out and die.
Listen, he stepped back into the car. You have to trust me. She wrote that. She wrote that in the quote.
How do you know we won't die?
I don't, but I've done this before.
I just stared at him.
Do you trust me?
The bridge drew closer. I looked at Sean and nodded. We were above the water now.
Jump!
He shouted, and I jumped. Ricky's just blindly following.
He's like, I'm not gonna jump! And then Sean's like, did you do it for a Klondike bar? And Ricky's like,
He hasn't even known Sean for 24 hours.
like he's known him for an hour.
Can I blame this on Disney?
You can't marry a man you just met. You can.
It was in the midair. I had decided that Sean was crazy. How do you think the story is going to end? We have all the characters now. How do you think this where do you think this is going? Because I guarantee you.
Does it turn into like Hatchet and they're stuck in the woods?
Because that'd be like a plausible thing.
Well, because that's what happens in the second half of The Outsiders, right?
No, they're actually, because I was rereading it, they're only in the woods for like 2 or 3 chapters.
Huh.
Yeah, out of 12. Yeah.
Well then, I'm gonna assume it takes on the plot of the most recent book I've read, Star Wars New Jedi Order Dark Tide 2. So I'm gonna assume they're gonna get attacked by aliens.
Because whatever you guess, it's wrong. It's all wrong. We splashed down into the icy cold water that was raging and seemed to be pulling me down. There were fallen trees that swung from one side of the riverbank to the other. I tried to swim to the bank, but the cold water pulled me to the middle of the river. I scrambled to stay afloat as the water tugged me down. I saw a tree floating towards me. I held my breath and ducked under into the murky river. I couldn't see and hit a giant rock and almost lost my breath. I swam up to the top, gasping for breath, trying desperately to find something to help me stay at the top. I saw a tree that had fallen across the riverbank. As the river pushed me towards it, I slammed into it and held on for dear life as the water slammed against me. I clung to the tree and breathed, trying to get a hold of myself. Then slowly I made my way to the bank, still clinging to the tree. Once the water had lessened, I let go of the tree and clawed onto the riverbank and lay there, in the wet dirt, grasping for breath.
Is Sean a hallucination?
No.
Like a figment of his imagination?
No. You're gonna hate how the story... You're genuinely going to say it does not deserve a name. Once I had calmed down a bit, I started to wonder where Sean was. Maybe he got washed away. That would be... Oh my gosh. Maybe he got washed away. That would be pleasanter. Wait.
Pleasanter. Pleasanter?
I think he's saying he'd be happy if Sean was dead. Maybe he's on the other side of the bank. This would be good. Or maybe he's dead, ... That would also be good.
Ricky!
A familiar voice shouted from a distance. Maybe he's on the other side.
There you are.
Yar?
You are. There you are.
He said, looking over me. Too bad he hadn't been washed down farther. We stomped through the thick underbrush, soaking wet and freezing cold. Neither of us spoke to each other. I was too mad, and Sean wouldn't give me an explanation. I led the way looking for a light, or anything that indicated that we weren't out in the middle of nowhere. Which we were. Branches from the pine trees would stick in our way, scratching my face, and the roots would sprout up from the dirt and we would stumble over them. It was hard to see anything since it was still dark out and the treetops covered the moonlight. Suddenly, the trees cleared, and I fell down a small rocky slope.
Rick? You okay?
Sean called from the top. Hold on, I shouted up. I sat up and tried to stand, but a sharp pain stung my leg.
I guess I'm really good at getting hurt.
I sat back down and looked at my leg. A 5-inch gash went down from my calf. It looked bad, but I could only feel it if I stood. It was bleeding badly. I could see the thick blood coat my torn up pant leg. It looked like black ink.
Are you okay?
Sean called down. No, I can't stand up. Sean didn't answer. Instead, I heard rocks falling from the top. When I looked up, Sean was near the top trying to get down. Hey, be careful.
Oh, really now?
It's kind of like, oh, really now?
Oh, really now?
Shut the hell up.
Oh, really now?
He loosened a bunch of rocks that fell on me. And Sean was still only halfway to me. After the rocks had fallen, he lost his balance and fell to the bottom of the rocks, mostly on his face. He jumped up with his bloody face and walked to me.
What's wrong?
You're not making it any better!
What's wrong?
I cut my leg and I can't get up. He studied the gash. Just give me a hand, I said.
Don't got any extras.
What? Oh, that's a joke, I see. He
Funniest joke of the year award! Matty Bites! Matty Bites 100 years! Ah!
He took off his jacket and ripped a piece of his shirt into a long strip.
Look, I'm sorry.
He said as he began to wrap up the gash. What was it? I asked angrily. What was it that made you jump from a train hundreds of feet into a raging river? He was silent as he wrapped the shirt around my wound. Don't you think I deserve to know? Sean sighed and tightened the knot over my gash.
It was all I could do to keep from screaming in pain. Guess you do.
Guess you do?
Guess you do. Guess you do? It's a question. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. He sat down next to me.
I used to live in Colorado with my brother David and my dad. He was infamous with everyone he met. A loudmouth and an abusive drunk. When I was 15, I decided I was gonna run. I was less smart about it than you were. Ow, what?
How is Sean more incompetent than Ricky?
I didn't have anywhere to go. No one to go to. So I just went from town to town until I found a job or a place to stay. Then I would get David.
What happened?
When I went back, ... David was ... dead. ... I should have taken him with me. ...
Beautiful line delivery. He rubbed his hands on his jeans and breathed heavily. That doesn't explain why we had to jump off a train. You said you did it before.
We lived in the town this train would have stopped in. My dad's just a bit on the crazy side. He cornered me on the other side of the river while the train was on its way to Utah, and I jumped. He thinks I'm dead, so he stopped looking for me. I want to keep it that way. What the fuck, man? This is so bad.
It's so bad. I can't even... It's worse when someone else is doing the talking. I hesitated. How did David...
Die?
He asked harshly. All I could do was nod.
My dad said it was a drug overdose in the 50s, but I know it wasn't. What drugs did they have in the 50s?
Wasn't that when they started the whole,
No, I think
war
like
against
60s.
drugs?
David wasn't that kind of kid. Word on the street says it was my old man's fault. I don't know how, though, ... I should have taken David with me. I shouldn't have left him.
And it all became clear.
All
It's
right.
so bad. That was chapter... That sure was a chapter. All right, if you like this, follow for more next chapter of Ricky. Yeah.
So what have we learned?
Disappointed in myself.
What have we learned?
So Sean.
What have we learned? Oh, do we want
Ricky's only known him for like an hour.
An hour?
I hate this.